If you're a web developer, you know the feeling, right? The world of frameworks moves so fast it can make your head spin. And today, we are diving deep into the latest release that has everybody talking, NextJS 16.
Just picture it. You just spent weeks, maybe months, finally getting everything migrated over to NextJS 15. You sorted out all the caching headaches, you got partial pre-rendering to work, your site is flying. You lean back in your chair, take a sip of coffee, feeling pretty good about yourself. And then, bam! The notification pops up. A whole new major version is here. And I know the first question that pops into your head is, oh no, do I have to rewrite everything? Again? Well, the answer is kind of complicated. It's a mixed bag, really. Some of these changes are absolutely incredible, some are just okay, and one of them is, let's just say, pretty controversial. So let's start with the headline feature, the biggest deal in this entire release. This is the thing that really feels like a game changer. They're called cached components. It's a whole new way of thinking about rendering and caching that honestly tries to give us the best of both worlds. Now, to get why this is so important, you got to remember the classic problem we've been dealing with for years. You basically had two choices. You could go with static rendering, where everything's pre-built and served from a CDN. I mean, it is blazing fast, but your content can get old and stale. Or you could do dynamic rendering, where every single request goes back to your server to get the latest data. It's always fresh for sure, but it's also slower and way more demanding on your server. You could have speed, or you could have fresh data, but getting both at the same time, that was the holy grail.
Now, NextJS 14 took a huge swing at this problem with something called partial pre-rendering, or PPR. And the idea was pretty genius, right? You render a static shell of the page, the parts that don't change, so the user sees something on their screen almost instantly. Then you stream in the dynamic bits, like the user's name or a live updating stock ticker, as soon as they're ready.
So, NextJS 16 doesn't throw that idea away. In fact, it builds right on top of it. You can think of cached components as the next evolution of PPR. It takes that same core concept and gives developers way more granular control over what gets cached, for how long, and when it gets refreshed. So, how do you actually use this thing? Well, it really boils down to three main steps. First, you take any piece of your UI that needs fresh data and you wrap it in a suspense boundary. That just tells React, hey, show a loading spinner here for a sec. Second, you flip a switch in your config file to turn the feature on. And third, this is the magic part. You add a use cache directive, and this new cache life function right where you fetch your data. This lets you decide, on a component-by-component basis, exactly how long that data should stick around. The level of control here is just incredible.
All right, so beyond that massive performance feature, NextJS 16 also packs in a bunch of smaller quality-of-life improvements. You know, the kind of stuff that just makes your day-to-day coding a little bit faster, a little bit smoother.
First up, Turbopack, that super fast bundler written in Rust, is now officially stable for both development and your production builds. That means faster startup times, faster builds, faster everything. The React compiler is also stable now, which is awesome because it automatically optimizes your code so you don't have to manually sprinkle use memo and use callback everywhere. And finally, the command line tool has a new recommended defaults option, which just helps you get new projects off the ground with all the best practices baked in from the start.
And, you know, sometimes it's the little things. Check this out. The logging is so much better now. When you're in development and you go to a page, your terminal tells you exactly how long it took to compile and how long it took to render. It might seem minor, but when you're hunting down a performance issue, having this data staring you right in the face is a total game changer. Okay, let's switch gears and talk about something that feels like it was pulled straight out of science fiction. NextJS 16 is making a big bet on an AI-powered future with something they're calling the MCP server.
So, what on earth is MCP? It stands for Model Context Protocol. And basically, it's an open standard for letting AI coding assistants, like GitHub Copilot, securely talk to your application while it's running. So instead of just having general programming knowledge, the AI can get real-time context about your specific app, its current state, its routes, any errors it's throwing, everything. It's like giving your AI a backstage pass. And NextJS 16 actually gives you two of these servers. The first one is built right in. When you start your dev server, it fires up and gives an AI access to your application's insides. The second one is a separate package you can install, and it gives the AI access to the framework's insides, the official docs, migration guides, all of it. So the idea is the AI has context on your code and on the tool you're building with.
Okay, but here comes the reality check. The potential for this is obviously massive. I mean, an AI that can debug a live error by cross-referencing the official docs? Yes, please.
But according to the source material we're looking at, the current version is, well, it's still a bit wobbly. In their tests, the AI often just ignored the new tools and fell back on its old generic knowledge. It's an incredible vision for the future, but it's not quite the present just yet.
All right, now for the main event, let's talk about the part of this update that has really gotten the community buzzing and, frankly, arguing. We need to talk about the proxy file.
So for a while now, in Next.js, we've had this file called middleware.ts. It was super useful. It lets you run some code before a request finished, perfect for checking if a user is logged in or for handling redirects. In Next.js 16, that file is gone. Or rather, it's been renamed to Proxy.ts. It's in the same place, does the same thing, but it has a different name.
So why? Why the change? The official explanation from the Next.js team is that it's to clarify the network boundary. Their argument is that the word middleware was confusing people, especially developers coming from server frameworks like Express, and it was causing them to put heavy, slow code in there that it was never designed for.
But the critique laid out in the source material is that this is just a band-aid on a bigger problem. Just changing the file name doesn't actually teach developers why they shouldn't put slow code there. The argument is that people will probably just keep misusing it no matter what it's called, and in the process, this change creates a whole lot of extra work, what we call churn, for developers who now have to go update their code and for library authors who have to update all their documentation.
But the source offers up another, more interesting theory. Earlier this year, there was a pretty major security vulnerability where attackers could actually bypass the logic in the middleware.ts file completely. So the speculation is that this name change isn't really about clarity at all. It's about distancing the framework from that old vulnerable file name and creating a clean slate psychologically.
So, after digging through all of this, the good, the bad, and the code, what are the big things you should walk away with from the Next.js 16 release?
Let's just break it down. When it comes to performance, cache components are a home run, a huge win, and probably the #1 reason to get excited about this update. For developer experience, there are some really solid quality of life improvements that will make your job easier. But when it comes to naming clarity, yeah, the whole proxy file thing feels like a questionable move that's creating more confusion than it solves.
And, all of this leaves us with one last really important question. Frameworks like Next.js are evolving at this mind-blowing pace, but is this constant fire hose of new features, new patterns, and breaking changes actually helping us build better websites? Or is the constant change itself becoming a kind of tax, a churn that eats up time we could be spending on our actual products? It's really the central tension in web development today, and Next.js 16 just puts it right back in the spotlight.